And now we're getting into the second episode where we're immediately introduced to the god Titan and Titan's game of hide and god seek. We can see Faye having an overwhelming concern for Lady Leo Lachey, but that concern is ill-willed as she is a god and can very well take care of herself. It's still cute to see that character development or that insight into the type of person that he is. So I'm excited to see how they play this game together. And can we talk about how cute these meeps are? The gods meeps that explain the game rules are one of the cutest little chibi characters I may have ever seen. They remind me of the Chows from Sonic, if anyone remembers the Chows. And in a classic fashion, the game is called Hide and God Seek, where it's essentially hide and go seek with hidden rules, but they were given a 300-second head start to find their hiding places, and immediately the god Titan said, nope, we're starting right now. You get no time to find your hiding place. There is no head start. Let the games begin. And immediately, Faye recognizes the danger of playing in Titan's home turf on a god's game, where one of the characters runs to try to hide in a building, and he implies that they must stop because it's a really bad idea, knowing that Titan, funny enough, having a god named Titan, is going to be able to find all of the hiding places, along with destroying every building they could possibly hide in. The Hide and God Seek's landscape is a square grid made up of nothing but buildings, so it's really curious to see how they're going to go about beating the god inside of this game. And immediately they realize the game is not a normal game of hide and go seek, hide and god seek. When one of the players was tagged, half of their body had flipped to red and they became an enemy attacking all of their comrades. So if they were to tag one of their friends, then they also get turned, and it's looking more of like a numbers game at this point. They're trying to uncover hidden rules about the game in order to win. And after a few moments in the game, after a handful of comrades have been tagged by Titan, there's still players in the game. They're chasing and trying to tag the other players, but only half of their body is turning red. So Faye realizes immediately that one of the hidden rules must have to do with players not being out as soon as they're found, but flipping their body back from being a red player like Titan into a full normal colored character that they are themselves, as in just their, plain normal skin tone, not half painted red. And they've discovered in order to turn one of their comrades back, they need to tag them. So one of the cute details that I've just noticed is when the trash can gets placed over their teammate's head, they still have trash in the trash can. And I like that little detail. It's a dirty trash can inside of a god simulated world, and that's hilarious to me. And she comes out of the trash can covered in trash. They had to cover up the top half that was flipped red in order to tag her and flip her back without getting attacked themselves. She's just a hot mess. And at this point in the game, Faye has figured out two of the hidden rules that have been proposed by the god. The first rule is those that are incapacitated by the god will become the god's subordinates. The second hidden rule is that it's possible to return any of the god's subordinates back to the human side by tagging them. So we're getting some of the details of the game uncovered one plot at a time. And a really weird fact about this anime is when they show the hidden rules, they're all in Japanese. So if you're watching an English dub, they don't put the subtitles for what the Japanese characters are translating, and you have to switch it into Japanese in order to be able to read the hidden rules with English subtitles. So I'm having to flip back and forth, that way I'm able to sit here and trim and then look up to see what those hidden rules are as they discover them, and then go back to the English dub so I can sit down and not have to stare at the screen the whole time. Fun facts. And at this point in the game, now they've managed to turn one of their allies back and discover two of the hidden rules, they're still searching on how to find the win condition of Titan's game. It's a mystery because the Meep said that even if they manage to not get caught and they hide throughout the entire duration, they still might not win the game. So it's going to take more than just surviving Titan's grasp in order to take a victory here. And as Faye and Leo Lachey rack their brain around the win condition, they find a moment of bonding and excitement. Leo Lachey is a god who absolutely loves any humans, along with most gods, saying that if humans take the game seriously and they enjoy the games that they're playing, that's all the gods want to see, is someone taking the game seriously and having as much fun as possible. So the challenges that are presented in here recap on the first episode, where one of the best lessons is that rules are meant to make games fun. They create boundaries, they create obstacles and limitations that give you a challenge to have to work around. And that's a huge premise of what they enjoy throughout this series, and I really appreciate that. And as soon as Leo Lachey lets Faye know that games are meant to be fun and gods thoroughly enjoy those who enjoy the games, Faye has a recollection, a past memory of the red-headed woman who taught him how to play games, the one he's been searching for in the series, reminding him that games are meant to be fun. Games are supposed to be fun, and that's how you should go about playing games. That's something that I can really keep in mind, especially because I'm a League player. Fuck. And the next thing that you discover is that Titan has managed to tag every single player except for 3 remaining players, the one teammate that they had originally flipped back, Leo Lachey and Faye themselves. So right now the score is 17-3, I believe. Doesn't mean you can give up. And as Titan continues his march towards victory with the 17 players that have already been tagged, there are 3 that remain. It's Asta, Faye, and Leo Lachey. They're trying to come up with a plan together in order to beat the Titans game, but he has them cornered inside of buildings as he destroys the surrounding environment and has the subordinates corner them and chase them where there's nowhere left to hide. It's exciting. And while they're trapped, stuck, trying to rack their brains, Faye realizes when Leo Lachey says that all of the allies they had have been flipped to red, he suddenly has a realization that that's the answer to the game. The Titan has been playing 2 games or 3 games this whole time while they've only been playing 2. So they've been playing a game of tag and hide and God seek, while Titan has a 3rd game up his sleeve that's on top of this board. How are they going to overlap all of this, and what is this going to turn into? And with this realization, it ties back into there being 2 lose conditions, where simply hiding wouldn't be enough to win by itself, but they realize that having the players flipped can also be a part of one of the win conditions. So they're getting ready to plan their move, and they haven't let us know that they've understood what the game is, even though they're on the same page, which means that they're in sync and they're working really well together at this point in the episode. And under the circumstances, Faye has decided to take half of the subordinates of Titan and lead them away, but what he didn't know is that Titan had planned to trap Faye on top of one of the only remaining buildings in order to crush him. So it seems like he's been playing a tactical play all by himself on the backside of this. Even though the God Titan is mute, he doesn't have any of his own voice lines or explanations himself. They do have a really cute quip on how they manage to communicate back and forth, as almost they understand each other without him needing to verbally communicate what is happening. So Faye firmly believes that Titan has led him up to the top of the building to finish him off himself, while Leo Lachey has taken the other half of his subordinates and tried to lead them away in order to secure themselves the win condition of this game. So in Hide and God Seek, let's see how they plan to take a victory. And excuse me, I was wrong earlier. The score was 3-16, and now it is 2-17. God Titan, on top of leading Faye, while leading Faye on top of the building, has tagged and crushed him, leaving him immobile, causing him to turn red. So Titan has scored another point, meaning the score is now 2-17, with Leo Lachey and Asta being the only women to survive in the Gods game. All of the buildings have been destroyed, which was one of the conditions for the game being lost, where there not being any more moves. So at this point, they lead you to believe that the game has fully been lost by the humans and Titan has won this. Ooh, but because Faye has the Arise for immortality, he wasn't incapacitated, which means that he hasn't been flipped to the god's side. He resurrected and he's still on his own team. He's still on the team of Leo Lachey. So the score is back to 3-16, and they're getting ready to make the game-winning move. According to the rules of... And the name of Faye's Arise is May Your God, which is a really cool name for immortality. I do have to say. And in a very cocky, confident fashion, upon resurrecting, Faye looks at Titan and says, "We are not worried about losing this game at all. Even though the score is currently 3-16, they figured out the win condition and they've put all of their ducks in a row in order to take this victory." Titan asks how, apparently, in his voice. Faye understands this and lets him know that they've managed to meet all of the win conditions of this game, and in a grand fashion they have Leo Lachey lining up all the other members So what's been discovered as the third rule of this game, and why Titan was playing 3 games instead of 2, is they're not only playing tag and hide and God seek, but they're also playing reversey, the game where it's a lot like checkers, and when you create rows and you flip tiles that are black and white, you can turn all of the tiles in between your two into that color. So you're constantly trying to get more pieces of your color on the board. They were explained at the beginning of the game that they are playing on a square field, and that was one of the key details inside of this series, to let them know that they're playing on a checkerboard or a reversey board. And that's how you were able to not only hide and survive. If no one had gotten caught throughout this, they would have more pieces on the board at the end of the game, as opposed to Titan having caught everybody. Then that's one way they all lose. But when they say merely not getting caught isn't enough to win, you have to be able to survive while having more pieces on the board. So they're playing games of tag, hide and God seek, and reversey all in one. Faye discovers this and has Lady Leia Lachey line up all of the remaining subordinates, while having Asta get ready to smash them into one row and then tag one. And with one white piece and one white piece being at both ends, all of those middle red subordinates are going to be flipped back from Titan's team to the main God's Game team. And this is what creates the win condition for the game. And in a grand fashion, he expresses that victory, and in such a modest way, but such a cocky, confident way. I really like that attitude presented behind it. And in this last move, they managed to flip 8 more of the players, causing the final score to be 10-9, meaning Titan loses this, and Faye has confidently commanded the rest of the team in order to play the game perfectly, showing his expertise in many different games that he has played, along with his actual enjoyment and thrill. Titan seems to have enjoyed the game thoroughly due to Faye's attitude towards it, and this seems like it's creating an extremely strong bond between the gods and the top-ranked rookie player, Faye. And you can see that respect and gratitude come from Titan at the end of the game as he saves Faye from the top of the demolished building he was standing on just before it crumbles, and then and then screeches out a sign of enjoyment. And upon their victory, the commission for the Gods Games lets Faye and Lady Leia Lachey know that the reason they've won this game is because of how well they work together. Their chemistry has been broadcast and is apparent to most of the people surrounding them, and it has nothing to do with the fact that she's a former god upon them winning a game, but the fact that they worked so well together. They were on each other's wavelengths, they were understanding what each other were thinking, and they were thoroughly enjoying the game as they played. So that cohesion between those characters is really being solidified at the end of this episode. And upon the victory, when we start getting consolidation between Leia Lachey and Faye, he lets her know that his wish from the gods is to find the character we've seen in his flashbacks multiple times, the red-headed lady that had taught him to play games and enjoy them to begin with, but he has no memory of her name, and he only ever called her Sis. So his wish from the gods when he does win the games is to be able to figure out who this person was and find them again so he can reconnect. While Leia Lachey's wish is evident that she just wishes to return to elements and become a god again, being that she's been removed from elements to go play with humans and didn't know she wasn't allowed to return. So the only way for her to get back is to win all 10 of the God Games. She was asking Faye, what is your wish going to be? You already know what mine is. And then we have the recollection of him playing games with that same person again, as he describes a little bit more in detail what his drive is behind the victory in his games. And Faye, upon remembering that the mentor he had that taught him how to play games he's searching for also had vermilion hair, the bright red hair that Leia Lachey has as well. So when he asks her about if she may be related, know any information, or have some clues, he gets laughed at in his face because she's been frozen in a glacier for 3,000 years. So there's no way that she would have a connection to him or another human from that era, which is hilarious to her, apparently. But it shows that whimsical, fun side of a god who doesn't seem to take these things too seriously. And in the beginning of the 3rd episode, we can see that Faye has a lot of pull when it comes to his status inside of the Gods Game Commission. The head of the commission had just finished her night shift and is hanging out in her nightgown, trying to get some sleep during the day, when Faye had interrupted her to inquire more about the Gods Games. And he learns that the last person who had interrupted the head of the commission during their beauty sleep was put on cleaning duty for a month on the entire courtyard, which kind of scares Faye a little bit, and that's funny to me on a way to start an episode showing that he has this much power to be able to still secure the meeting, even though she's at her wit's end and he's interrupting this, but gets the time of day from her regardless. And during the beginning of the episode, while they're first having a meeting with the head of the commission for the Gods Games, Lady Laodicea expresses her concern with the numbers that are required for them to be able to form a team. The statistics based around the winning odds for teams playing in the God Game mean that teams that have less than 10 people only have a 4% chance of winning the games, while teams of 10 or more have a 9% and teams of 20 or more have an 11% chance to win the games. This causes a major concern in Lady Laodicea because her primary objective is making sure that people are actually enjoying the games and that they're going to be fun teammates, not be someone who's being put there just to help play the numbers. But the commission really doubles down on the fact that humanity needs all of the edges and chances they have to win to be in their favor. So having a larger team is something that's nearly non-negotiable. And the minimum requirement for any team to be formed is 3 players, so being that it's only Faye and Lady Laodicea, Faye is given the task on having to find the third teammate, and he argues that the head of the commission or that the administrators are supposed to be the ones that handle all of the scouting, but due to the fact they're such an unconventional team, with Laodicea being a former god, that he is designed, or he is better equipped to know who are going to be playing in the God Games with them. And the commission has a great argument. They do say that we are not the ones who play the games. We're not the ones that are immersed in there, so we don't know what the best fit for an abnormality may be. The person who has first-hand experience should be the one to handle the scouting, and you can't really argue that, honestly. I kind of wish there were more managers in the world that were like that. Like, hey, I don't have the experience doing the job hands-on, but you do, so why don't you tell me what the better qualifications would be? So as Faye begins scouting for new teammates, he quickly realizes that Lady Laodicea has made a name for herself in the last 6 months while waiting for Faye to return. He reaches out to a lot of his old team captains from Team Blaze. We're learning that some of these teams have different names, they have different members, and they're well established. And they are all ready and willing to accept Faye without any second thought. But the moment he brings up Lady Laodicea, everybody has an immense fear, terror, or relapsed memory on some incident that she's caused within the last 6 months that has made her incompatible with almost every member from every other team. So she's feeling quite flabbergasted, to say the least, and the responses that come from this character have to be from like the medieval times. I have no idea how someone's talking like this.
'Twas not we who smote the jackanapes.
And upon getting the explanations from Lady Laodicea, this is where all of the absurdity happens. This is where things get really funny. So her Day of the Blood-Soaked God came from when a group of apostles she was playing with had lost one of the Gods Games. They got belligerently drunk and started yelling things like, "The Gods Games can kiss my ass." And she had taken that very personally. We've seen in the first couple episodes that one of her biggest respects towards the Gods Games are making sure that you enjoy them and that games are meant to be fun. So when everyone starts bad-mouthing the Gods Games, she gives one of the funniest explanations to her reasoning on why she managed to hurt and hospitalize every member from that team. Check this out.
I gave them massages, and maybe I forgot to hold back a bit.
And one of the first insecurities that comes out about Lady Laodicea is that her bosoms were commented on by the former captain or the captain of Team Blaze, saying that she is not my type. I prefer women that are a bit bustier. The table proceeds to shatter and she becomes scaringly calm while talking about the fact that women come in all sizes the same way that boys do, and that men from every era in the world have always had the same fascination and found power in a woman's bosoms. So being able to reconcile with that seems a little bit complicated for the god, even after all of these years. May have a hint of jealousy towards some big boobied women out there. And this is further reconciled when Faye asks if he minds if the captain of their new team would be a girl, and the only response that he gets from Laodicea is, "Are her boobs bigger than mine?" The assets is what they're referred to in this anime. Next, Faye calls up captain of the Black Thorns and asks if he can join their team as well. When he speaks with the captain from that team, they were happy to have Faye, but as soon as he brings up Lady Leia Lashea's name, the captain screams, freaks out, passes out, and we discover that Lady Leia Lashea has become the god known as the god who finished the job. As she had went to the underground arena in the past 6 months to go play in combat games with other apostles, she still had not learned how to control her strength from being frozen for 3,000 years. So in the first round, she had faced the captain from the Black Thorns and completely annihilated her, putting her in the hospital and traumatizing her to the point she fainted and passed out. Then, when the god went to go reconcile and visit her in the hospital, she again had a re-traumatization, passed out, screamed, and the incident is now known as the god who finished the job, from defeating them in the arena to returning to the hospital and causing a re-traumatization. But Faye does quickly realize that the reason Lady Leia Lashea has been doing these things is she's desperate to be able to get to know humans more and learn how to play games with humanity. And he sees that compassion inside of her, that drive and that willingness to be able to learn. So he doesn't necessarily scald her or feel as though she's a bad person in any way, but he sees the effort that she's been putting in to be able to play with humans and understand them. And that's a really cute quirk towards this main character, having a level of compassion and understanding towards people's reasonings and still being somewhat not forgiving, or at least having them take responsibility for those incidents. And that's a really good metaphor when it comes to life itself. When you have people that no one is all good and no one is all bad. People may have bad intentions and do good things, and people may have good intentions and do bad things. But we can see that her intentions are good and she had just done some bad things, and I think that's reconcilable, for sure. At least Faye thinks so, and I see that. I see that. Ooh, and I messed that name up a couple times there. It's the Black Rose, not the Black Thorns. I apologize. But, you know, we were close. We were close. And upon getting very flustered under these accusations, Lady Leia Lashea again starts speaking in such a strange format that is representative of biblical times. I had to look this up myself, where he says, "You sound extremely funny when you get flustered and you start talking different." She says, "Nay, we speak with aplomb." And I had to look that up. We speak with confidence. We speak with execution. And I like that word. We speak with aplomb. Present yourself with aplomb. And I should point out, the captain of the Black Rose team is named Yuki. So we're going to be coming back to Yuki at multiple different points in this series, but that is the god that finished the job incident with the captain of the Black Rose team. Yuki had been re-traumatized when she went to go visit her in the hospital, her being Lady Leia Lashea. Her being Yuki, she being Lady Lashea. I'm gonna get better at this. And after all the accusations have been made, they weren't able to find a team with one of Faye's previous captains. They run into Pearl Diamond. She's a teleporter that has come down from the top floor and was getting ready to put in her resignation. So as they were staking out the table that has the commission for inquiries, people that are looking for new teams, she had come down to put in her resignation. But Faye was just talking about the fact that having a teleportation skill or movement abilities are extremely useful. So finding out why Pearl Diamond is trying to retire early has now become their main objective. They have a very strong curiosity about these abilities, and they want to create an opportunity for her to not retire and join their team. But she seems dead set on retiring. With being such a cute, quirky, soft character, overly considerate, you can tell that she's made up her mind in this situation and has already had something irreparable that's causing her to move the way that she is. So Pearl Diamond is going to be the next focal point moving forward, and we're going to see how they go about trying to convince a candidate who wanted to retire joining their team. Lady Leia Lashea burns up Pearl Diamond's resignation papers right at the desk and then proceeds to demand they have a conversation. Faye has to intervene and say, "Hey, I would like to talk to you and find out a little bit more. If you hear me out, I'll treat you to some parfaits." And as they're sitting down having parfaits, we can see Faye get lost in his character where he becomes very intellectual, introvert, and tries to analyze what's going to be happening with this person. Looking into her past games, he discovers that she has lost the last round due to her own mistake of misusing her teleport ability and causing her teammates to take their third loss. And again, that requires that they are no longer participating in the Gods games. They've lost their right, they've been revoked. So she caused teammates to have their third loss by misusing her teleport ability, and due to this mistake, holds on to immense guilt and is convinced that the only way to atone for this is by retiring. In this moment that Faye is lost in thought while analyzing all of her games, she eats 35 parfaits, just one after another, scrunching it down. I don't know if she did that super lightning fast or if Faye spent an eternity analyzing the games that she had been a part of, trying to figure out what her reasoning was. But as soon as they finish the interaction, Pearl is insisted that she is going to be retiring and teleports away on them. Says, "I'm sorry, but your words can't change anything, and we are going to be getting out of here." Being a scared character who feels like they've messed up everything in somebody else's life and can't make atonement for it, I understand that position a little bit. It is something that's going to be hard, but the way that Faye goes about this is really interesting to me. I'm curious to see how someone with such levels of intellect can also have that much empathy towards a person and really put everything together. And being as depressed as Pearl is throughout this whole interaction, there is a really cute quip where Lady Leia reassures Pearl Diamond as she's calling herself useless, that the gods wouldn't think so at all. It takes a lot to be able to take a win over a god through any capacity, whether you have a team or not. And then enjoying the games is the number one priority. So having fun, and if her team had fun, then that's a win by itself. But blaming any one of your teammates for losing the game is completely incomprehensible to Lady Leia. She knows damn well that in order to be victorious against the gods, you have to be enjoying yourselves, enjoying the game, and that's the number one objective. And on top of that, you have to be a team, and you can't blame one person or another. Everything is cohesive. And I really like that trait where it's not deprecating or it's not making them feel worse. It's not trying to break them down or reiterate on some of those negative thoughts. It's trying to bring light and a new perspective towards a person who is currently suffering. So it's cool to be able to see a god be able to have that level of compassion when it seems like all they care about is games. And really, one of the biggest lessons that come from this scene are that it really is okay to lose sometimes, especially when you're playing a game, and if you're enjoying yourself and if you're enjoying your friends and your team, it's okay to lose sometimes. It's about the experience that you had gained through that. And it's still no fun to lose, but that doesn't mean that you're not expected to lose when playing in a god's game. And you're not expected to win every game you play every time. So being able to take that with a positive attitude, a positive mental forward, will bring you a lot farther in the games, let alone in real life. I like that analogy, and I like that lesson that you can take with you through every part of your day-to-day experience, especially if you play League of Legends. I'm looking at all of you. And upon being rejected by Pearl Diamond, Faye has a memory from his childhood mentor, Sis, the red-headed Vermilion lady that we've been referring to throughout this series. He remembers one of the lessons taught by his mentor is that gods smile upon those who create their own miracles. So when he's asked if they want to give up on recruiting Pearl Diamond, Faye remembers that no, this would be a miracle if we can stop her from retiring and have her join our team. And I think that leads to him being dead set on saying the gods will smile upon us if we can save this person from wasting their potential. And that's really his main concern here, is that it would be sad to see someone who's sacrificed and given so much on this level just give it all away and end their life on a loss and never be able to reconcile with the fact that they've tasted defeat and they've caused that pain to their team. So he convinces her that the only way to get back up and get on your feet is to be able to show them that they were wrong and prove to the gods that you are worthy of someone being in the games. Show their old teammates that she can still be of value, and even though she may have caused one loss, it's not the end of the world. He goes very far out of his way in order to try to recruit this Pearl Diamond, and she realizes this. She recognizes that nobody has ever been scouted this passionately before, and Faye's passion does come from that stance of not wanting to see her go out with such a sorrow, because that would be almost impossible to recover from throughout your entire life. You'll always hold on to that regret. So he convinces her that we have one more chance to clean your slate and let you leave without being full of regret. And if she still wants to drop out and doesn't want to join then, she would have 2 losses and he would respect that. But he at least convinces her, hey, don't give up now. Don't go out like that just because you feel bad. You have to get back up. You have to get on the horse and you have to show us what you can do. Otherwise, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. That is a very powerful lesson to find, especially if you were to find a friend or a mentor like that in your life and then go out of your way to be able to help save somebody. That's all somebody needs, is a push in the right direction. And sometimes you may not know what the right direction is for every person, but when you feel confident that you can see someone is suffering and you know the solution, then you should really take that extra step and not let the first no be the only rejection you accept. And it is really funny to point out that during them going to reconsider with Pearl Diamond, going to convince her, they enter into her apartment. And due to the fact Pearl is a teleporter, she can shift change. She never uses her doors, so she didn't know that they were unlocked. And when Faye and Lady Leolachea go in to try to convince her, Pearl is standing there in her undergarments. But the only thing Leolachea can notice is the fact that Pearl Diamond's boobs are much bigger than hers, so she collapses and crumbles under the defeat, knowing that she has been bested. It didn't work as well as I thought. I tried. And after they finally convince Pearl to join for one more game on their team, we see that Faye has used his status to pull the head of the commission for the Gods Games to let him know when Pearl's old team was going to be playing their next game. That way they can play the game on the same day and compete with them and show them that Pearl isn't useless. So Faye had asked the head of the commission, hey, let me know when the game is. And the commission says, you know what, because you get such good ratings, I broke all kinds of rules and this is when they're going to be playing. This gives them an opportunity to be able to prove that Pearl Diamond has as much value that Faye sees in her. So this is going to be one of the most exciting moments in Pearl's episodes, to have her redemption arc and really solidify ourselves as a character in this story. And as we end the third episode, we see everybody enter the gate to go into the God's Realm Elements, where they find the undefeated god Ouroboros, a 30,000 foot long dragon floating through the sky in clouds. Faye noticed that every apostle that has ever gone against Ouroboros, regardless of the amount of players they've had, the strategy, or the teams they were comprised of, have lost. So this has been an undefeated god, and we are getting into the next arc where we will see Pearl Diamond and Faye working together to beat a god that has yet to been defeated.